What's good? It's Extreme Caution. Today I'm finna go on my official AEW All Out review. Finna go over every match on the card, what I thought each every single match, what I thought of the feud, the build up, what I could think leading after every single match. If you like daily wrestling content, make sure you like, comment, subscribe because I upload daily wrestling content. So you should like my content. I'm finna go ahead and jump straight into the review. The first match we start off with is Adam Copeland, Christian Cage versus FTR. Very shocked that this wasn't the main event, especially due to it being in their hometown. I thought, but I'm not shocked what the main event was. But based off the finish of this match, this probably should have been the main event. But this was a really great match. Really enjoyed it. We ended up getting a cool sequence of where Adam and Cope and Christian ended up both hitting each other's finishing moves. You have Christian hitting the spear. You have Cope doing Christian's finishing move. Cope ends up going for a pinfall, but then Stokely, of course, interferes in the match, ends up pulling the referee. This ends up coming out. Beth Phoenix, Adam Copeland's wife, she comes out, attacks Stokely, takes him out, ends up carrying him out, outside of the ring, of course, into Gorilla, of course. But this does eventually lead towards the end of the match. Towards the end of the match, we end up getting a moment where I think Cash Wheeler ended up going towards the ropes because I think Christian was holding Dax. He was holding Dax on the outside, tries to attack him, but Christian ends up punching him, disallow Adam Copeland to end up hitting a spear to pick up the victory. But after the match, you get FTR. They attack Cope and Christian. Then you end up getting the matriarchy with Nick Wayne, Kip Sapien, and Mother Wayne. They come out and help FTR attack Christian Cage and Adam Copeland. Then you end up getting Beth Phoenix. She comes back out. She because there was a moment where they end up handcuffing Adam Copeland. She's trying to get the handcuffs off Adam Copeland. Then you get FTR and Cash Wheeler. FTR ended up approaching Beth Phoenix, and they end up basically hitting a power driver on her. I like what they did here. Very shocked that they're continuing the feud, but I'm actually not mad at it, especially with the direction they went with the show. It makes sense why they continue this feud. Very interested how this plays out because this has been one of the better booked things in AEW. And I like what they've been doing with this feud so far. Plus, this continues the story of Christian still got to solve his Nick Wayne problem because he hasn't actually faced Nick Wayne. And I still think we need that one-on-one match. So I'm actually not mad with this. I like it. It adds more intensity to the rivalry. Adds more of a blood feud type vibe to it, especially with them attacking Adam Copeland's wife. I like what they did here. This was a great way to open the show. Really enjoyed this. Hopefully, they could just execute the booking of this feud. So very excited to see how this plays out. The next match we ended up getting was MJF versus Mark Briscoe and I think it's called like a tables and tax match, if I'm not mistaken. This match was good. The only thing I didn't like about it was the amount of thumbtacks spots we kept getting. Now, I get that was the purpose of this match, but the stipulation isn't that you have to use thumbtacks. That's just part of the gimmick. But it was cool for what it was, but it was way too many thumbtack spots. Like every 3 seconds, we was getting a thumbtack spot, like constantly over and over and over. That was my only issue with the match, but we did have some cool spots. Early in the match, we ended up getting Mark Briscoe basically covering the entire ring with thumbtacks. So throughout the match, they're both trying to avoid getting slammed on the thumbtacks, but of course, eventually they do. We ended up getting a cool spot where MJF ended up doing like a power driver onto Mark Briscoe onto like a chair with thumbtacks on it. I think it was another spot as well where Mark Briscoe ends up doing like a froggy bowl on a table full of thumbtacks, which I thought was cool. Mark Briscoe did pick up the victory as I predicted because I'm like, they are telling the story of him eventually going after the TNT title against Kyle Fletcher as well. And on Dynamite, he's going to be facing the Don Callis family. So that's going to lead to eventually going to Kyle Fletcher as well. So I had a feeling he was going to win this match. I don't know how I feel about MJF losing. This doesn't hurt MJF to a degree, but I also don't feel like it benefits Mark Briscoe as well. So I don't know how to feel about this because I feel like MJF shouldn't be losing to guys like this. But to be fair, I don't think they're going to put the world title on him anytime soon. So I don't really know what you do with this, to be honest. It was a good match. So I'm just left very mixed on it because I don't hate Mark Briscoe. I like him. I just don't understand why we're still continuing this feud. But we'll see how this plays out. Maybe they end up having a third match, which I think they are going to have a third match. So we'll see how this plays out. Now we end up getting Ricochet and Gates of Agony versus the Hurt Syndicate. The Hurt Syndicate ended up shockingly losing this match. I'm not going to go in depth of this match because this match was very mid. I'm going to be honest. This match was very mid. Also, I do not want to see MVP in an in-ring ever again. Now, I didn't have high hopes for MVP in the ring, like due to his age and due to him not wrestling, but my God, please keep him outside of the ring. But the main thing I want to talk about with this is there was a report before Forbidden Door ended up happening, there was a report of the Hurt Syndicate having creative control and that they only wanted to lose to certain tag teams. A few of the tag teams that they didn't want to lose to was like the Young Bucks and FTR. And a few of the tag teams that they said that the Hurt Syndicate are willing to lose to were the Outrunners, the Gates of Agony, which was one of them, which is very shocking because they end up losing cleanly to the Gates of Agony, which is very weird, but they didn't want to lose to FTR. So it looks like that report, because I didn't really mention it or anything, because I just thought that the report was just, trying to create drama, but it looks like that report might have actually been true, that they actually do have creative control of who they win and lose to. And the fact that they didn't want to lose to FTR, but they was willing to lose the Gates of Agony is very shocking. And one of the reasons was that they only want to lose to people that are like the same like physical physique as them, which I think is dumb because by that logic, if Bobby Lashley ever goes to the main event scene, that means nobody should ever beat Bobby Lashley outside of like 3 people, which is kind of crazy. So this makes me look at the Hurt Syndicate a little weird and a little different. Like, I understand protecting your characters and gimmicks to a degree, but there's a certain point where we're going a bit too far with your creative control. Now, all wrestlers in the main event scene have creative control to a degree. It just depends on how much of a say-so they have of their characters. But this is a bit extreme in my opinion. But Ricochet and the Gates of Agony win. Don't really care because I really don't think this really matters, especially with them not having the tag titles. And they lost cleanly, which was very weird as well. So don't know what you do with these two teams. Maybe they continue to feud, which I'm not really that interested in, but we'll see how this plays out. We end up getting Mercedes Moné versus Riho for the TBS Championship. Not going to really go to end. I'm not going to go to in depth over this match. I'm really not. Mercedes win. This match was very mid in my opinion. Mercedes win. She has no one to face for the TBS title, so we'll see what's next for her, but I'm not going to waste my time with this. She wins. She retains. Now we end up getting Okada versus Konosuke Takeshita versus, oh my God, I already forgot his name, but it was a luchador in this match, and that luchador was going crazy. Dorada, that's his name. I just remember his name, Dorada. He was amazing in this match, bro. He was low-key the MVP of this match, which is very shocking when you have Okada, who I'm not the biggest fan of in the ring, but Konosuke, it's very shocking that you're going to have Okada and Konosuke in the ring and that they're not the MVPs of the match. Because the MVP of this match was Dorada, bro. He was amazing in this match. This was, in my opinion, this was the best match of the night. In my opinion, this was the best match of the night. And I did not care about this match, but those three made me care about this match. But towards the end of the match, Dorada ended up taking the pinfall. Okada retains, of course. But it was a stare down between Konosuke and Okada, having some tension. Konosuke is frustrated because he couldn't beat Okada. They're definitely building towards that story, which I can't wait. Now, I don't think it's going to be executed right, but I think the match will be a banger, and we need Konosuke dethroning Okada for that unified championship. So we'll see how that ends up playing out. Now we end up getting a coffin match between Darby Allin, Jon Moxley. This was a good match. This was a good, solid match. This was everything you expect from a Darby Allin versus Jon Moxley match. You got blood, you got crazy spots, Darby doing his ridiculous stunts. But towards the end of the match, you end up getting a moment where Darby was getting the upper hand, if I'm not mistaken. And, well, actually, no. Bryan Danielson interfered in this match to a degree. He ends up pulling out a bag, and Darby checks what's in the bag, and it's a plastic bag, the same plastic bag that Moxley used damn near a year ago to end up suffocating Bryan Danielson. Darby does the same thing, uses the bag to suffocate Mox, and it looks like he's about to pick up the pinfall. I mean, not the pinfall, put him in the coffin. But you end up getting Pac makes his return, attacks Darby Allin, puts him in the body bag, puts him in the casket to allow Jon Moxley to pick up the victory. Very interested to see where this goes. I did want this feud to end, but I don't hate that they're continuing it because I am getting more invested in this feud. I will say that. My only problem with this feud is that it's very repetitive. I do think they need to speed it up a bit with getting Darby some help because it is very repetitive with the numbers game. Because we've been dealing with this number game stuff with the Death Riders for almost a year. So I think we need to speed it up a bit, but it is getting a bit more interesting. And then they end up having a backstage segment where Jon Moxley wanted like a couple of words to say to Darby while he was in the casket, but Darby ends up escaping the casket, puts Jon Moxley in the body bag, and sets him on fire until someone brings out a fire extinguisher to, stop the flames. So they're continuing this feud. Interested to see where this goes. Now we end up getting a fatal four-way match for the women's AEW Women's Championship between Toni Storm, Jamie Hayter, Kris Statlander, and Tekla. This match was fine. It was whatever to me. The main thing is I am very shocked of the outcome because I said that Toni Storm was not going to lose that title because she had no one to lose it to. but they had her lose the title to Chris Statlander, which I'm actually happy. I'm happy that I was wrong because I've been saying this for a while. We need Toni Storm not being AEW World Champion because the women's division cannot move forward until either Mercedes or Toni lose that title. Now, I'm interested to see where this goes. Let's hope they actually book it well, but they didn't book Toni Storm well, so I highlight that they're going to book Chris Statlander well. But I'm happy that Chris Statlander won because I love Chris Statlander. I think she has tremendous potential. She's great in the ring. I think she could do a lot of great things. The only thing she needs to work on is those mic skills. I wish they would have kept her with Stokely because she needs a mic piece, but she can still do some decent work as a solo competitor. Very interested how this plays out. Very shocked, very happy that they did a twist, and this was very unpredictable. I'm happy. Now, who does she feud with? That's the more interesting question because the only heels for her is really Mercedes, or if you want to do the trio of madness, but do we really need to run that program right now? I don't really know. It's like you have Megan Bain potentially, but like she has some competitors as heels, but we'll see how this plays out. But I'm very interested to see how this goes because I've been wanting her to lose that title for a while now. So I'm very curious to see how this plays out. Now we end up getting Bro Dito versus this was a tag team ladder match. We get Bro Dito, Don Callis family with Josh Alexander, Hetrocero, Young Bucks, and Jet Speed. This was a really good match. Really enjoyed it. We end up getting Bro Dito retain their AEW tag team titles. But after the match, though, you get the Young Bucks. They're in the ring. They're disappointed. Then you end up getting Jack Perry. He comes out, confronts the Young Bucks, flips them off, attacks them. But it's a 2-on-1 advantage. So the Young Bucks, of course, get the upper hand. They're about to hit the EVP trigger. Then we end up getting a little vignette segment of a while back when Luchasaurus ended up making his return. But they ended up revealing that it was Jack Perry that was the one that repaired Luchasaurus, gave him the serum to bring him back to life, like Frankenstein. Then we end up getting Luchasaurus. He comes out, makes the save, and then we end up getting a very emotional moment where they both hug each other, and then Luchasaurus finally get rid of the kill switch name and gets rid of the kill switch name, and he's now back to Luchasaurus, which I like. I like this. Put them in the tag team division because the tag team division definitely need more bodies. I like what they're going with this. This could be very interesting. I like this. Now, I wasn't around when they was a tag team, but I know of them being a former tag team, and I think this could be really great. Glad that they finally got rid of the Kill Switch name because I was like, why is he still Kill Switch even though he already betrayed Christian who gave him that name? So I'm finally glad they went that route. But this is very interesting. Glad to have Jack Perry back. Very curious to see how this plays out. This was really good. Then we get the main event. Kyle Fletcher versus Hangman Adam Page for the AEW World Championship. Hangman wins. This was a great match, but very predictable, but it was a great match nonetheless. Hangman picks up the victory. Don't know what's next for these two. Kyle Fletcher will probably be back to Collision doing open challenges, TNT title. And Hangman, don't know what's next for him, but this was a banger match. Overall, I thought the show was good. I thought it was good. Some of the matches was a bit mediocre, but overall, some of the twists and turns that they had, the surprises, was really good. Really enjoyed this show. You guys let me know your overall thoughts and opinions down below. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe. But yeah, that's it.